This is why I've been super excited about this trip for a long time. Welcome to the Aquarium Carp Fishery in France. Now behind me are numerous 50 and 60 pounders, but the real reason it drew me to here is, as the name suggests, the aquarium, it's gin clear, it's weeded from top to bottom, and consequently the carp are absolutely stunning. They're jet black and I cannot wait to get amongst them. So we arrived this afternoon. Max, the bailiff, has actually walked us around, shown us a few likely areas. I'm currently in peg 4. The reason I've chose this swim is it commands a vast amount of water and gives me options to sort of chase the fish down wherever they end up, with shallow water and deep water. So, like I said, I'm super excited, and now it's time to get the rods out. Welcome to the first episode of Tactics. Time to get the rods out. I've actually seen fish on a couple of different areas. I've got one rod out at the minute over to a shallow plateau. There's a lot of fish there cruising about, and all I've done there is just drove the Hunter 750 boat with a couple of handfuls of chops, 10 mil and whole link boilies, max hatch wafter in there, just trying to nick a bite. This particular spot, however, is directly in front of us, swimming at 23 wraps, listening to Max's advice. Slightly off to the right-hand side, in between the gap in the trees, there is a lovely little gravel seam. If I go just to the right, it's silty. In the middle, it's lovely and rock hard. So what I'm gonna do is, just to start tonight, I'm gonna give them maybe 2.5 kilos of whole link, 10 mil link and link chops. They've been washed out since yesterday, so what I did was pour boiling water, cover them. What's that's gonna do is it's gonna make them more easily digestible for the carp. It'll pass through them quicker, makes them appear washed out like they've been in the lake for a considerable amount of time. And yeah, I've added some liquids to them, so I'm going to put them out some salmon oil and some Squid Smart liquid as well, and just sort of sprinkle them with salt, just to give them that extra little bit of an edge as well. So yeah, hopefully this will produce a bite tonight. Okay, well, this is the last of the 3 rigs to go out there for the first night. I'm actually super confident, seen plenty of fish. I've basically got 2 different spots working for me. Just at the clips, feel that down. Bang. So that's 9 foot of water out there, and that spot is gravel. There's the odd patch of silt down there as well. I'm not worried about that too much. The weed's kind of off to the right-hand side as we're looking at that spot. So I can imagine if I get a bite, all they're gonna do is pick me up and run straight into that, but I'll worry about that when we get one. The first few days were uneventful on the initial spots that I'd chosen. However, in these sort of situations, these sessions are normally marathons and not sprints. And after a tactical change where I decided to pre-bait down my left-hand margin and then leave it just for a couple of days to gain the carp's confidence, I was hopeful that things would finally improve. Okay, so things have taken a dramatic positive turn this morning. I got up at first light, nothing had happened. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was starting to put stuff back in my bag, ready for the option of moving, when out of nowhere, the margin rod, this take's come, all hell's let loose, pod's nearly gone in. It's not massive, it's probably a 20 pounder, it's one of the newer stockfish, but the first one is always the hardest to get. It saved the blank, and now I've got a spot that I know could potentially do bites for the rest of the mornings that we've got on this session. The other good thing is, the middle spot, which I've invested a lot of bait on, and a lot of time now, has just started slicking and fizzing up and sheeting up, so it looks like fish has finally started to get the reds down on that as well. So once you get your bait established, it should pick up through the week. Well, there you go. First one of the session. Like I said, it's not the biggest fish in the lake, but it's given us a spot that we know we can get a bite from now, and it's saved the blank and opened up the account. So we can turn this one now into 2, hopefully, and it'll be much bigger the next one. We are now halfway through the session, and I really don't feel like that main spot out there is going to come good at the minute. Certainly not this time of the day now. Lots of liners, but it's not materialised, so I do think we will have chances out there sort of Thursday and Friday. So tomorrow and the day after, it's going to absolutely lash it down. Potential thunderstorms, just what we've been waiting for all week really, and I think that gives us the best opportunity. So for now, we're going to move over to peg 12 opposite. There's a bar, and I've been seeing fish periodically throughout the whole of this trip so far on top of that bar. I just feel like they've pushed off away from us. We're going to go through this evening in there. Maybe we'll stay over there for the night and come back in here early doors to get the rods ready for that rain coming in. But we're going to play it by ear. I certainly can't just sit in the peg for another day and just hope. We've got to go and make it happen now. Okay, so this is the 3rd and final rod to go out. Those 2 went out sweet, really nice drops on top of the bar out there. I reckon one's in about 4 or 5 foot of water, the other probably 6, 7. Perfect really. Couldn't have asked for any more of this fish here. I'm slacking these lines off. Hopefully the move will pay off. It's worth noting that I'd slacken my lines off because I was getting concerned that the line pressure was affecting the carp. Okay, we are into the second carp of the session. Oh, don't go under there. To be honest with you, this just goes to show that 9 times out of 10, you're not doing anything wrong. It literally is location. The tactics that we've got are working. It's just a matter of being in the right place. So you don't look a bad fish, to be honest. Yes, get in there. I don't know what they're feeding these fish on. Honestly, my arms are in bits. Right, let's get him sorted and get the rods back out. Well, check that out. A prime example of why we chose to come to the aquarium. Jet black carp, and the move has really paid off. The fish are still here as well. Hopefully this is a turning point and a sign of things to come. So it is time to talk you through exactly how to tie the slip D rig. First of all, I'm going to take the 35-pound Camo X soft braid, and I'm going to use a multi-tool to strip away around 6 inches of the coating, and then I'm going to pull around 15 inches from the spool and trim off. Now at this point, you're going to choose the pattern of hook that you want to use with it. This boils down to confidence, and for me, the size 4 apex curves are ridiculously sharp and reliable. And what I'm going to do, the end where we've taken the coating away, I'm just going to make a small loop, so double the braid back on itself. Then I'm going to take a mini hook ring swivel, and I'm going to pass the small loop through the big ring on the mini hook ring swivel and just trap it in place in between my fingers. And then I'm going to take the curve, and I'm going to pass the eye of the hook through the loop and then pinch it opposite the barb. Let the little mini hook ring swivel go, and then pinch the braid against the eye of the hook. And essentially that has formed the D section of the rig. Make sure you're happy where it's positioned. And then I'm going to take the small tag end, and that is going to go through the back of the eye first, and then I'm going to take the longer end, which is going to be rig, and I'm going to pass that through the back of the eye as well. And then what you'll be left with is, and then I'm going to form a knotless knot where I'm going to go down 7 or 8 times, and then I'm going to go 2 or 3 times back over that knot, and then for the very last time go through the back of the eye and pull it down all nice and tight. Make sure that you use a multi-tool to bed your knot down, and then one last thing I like to do is make sure that that D is exiting flush down the back of the hook to make sure it's all nice and level and in line. What I'm going to do then is take a pair of scissors and just trim off very carefully, don't go through your hook link, as close to the eye of the hook as you can, that tag end. Now that rig would be perfect to use on its own as it is, but we're going to take this one step further. I'm going to take a small piece of shrink tube that's just going to cover the knotless knot and help the hook turn more aggressively. And once you've got that in place, I like to sort of cover the whole of the knotless knot with the shrink tube and then steam it down. Okay, so now that shrink tube is steamed, and that is the hardest part of the rig and the most crucial part of the rig done. I'm going to take a long rock bottom tungsten anti-tangle sleeve, and I'm going to thread the end of the braid through the bottom of the sleeve. You need to measure the length that you require your rig. So I want mine around 8 inches long, so I'm going to cut it around about 9.5, and after making a figure of 8 loop, which we're going to do now, it'll be around the 8-inch mark. So I'm simply going to fold the tag end back on itself, make a loop with both sections of braid, twist it, pinch, and then I'm going to take one of the splicing needles, and I'm just going to go through one loop, grab the other one and pull it back through itself to create that figure of 8 loop knot, and then use a multi-tool again just to bed all your knots down nice and tight. If you need to use a bit of saliva, pull down the tag end, make sure that knot can't slip, and then I'm going to trim off the tag end and then slide that anti-tangle sleeve up over the top just to make it nice and neat, because that's going to attach to a quick change swivel on a uni leg clip. And the last thing to do to construct the rig is I'm going to take a small piece of rock bottom tungsten putty. I only want a tiny little mouse drop in the center of the hook link just to keep it all nicely pinned down. Essentially that is the rig constructed. So the last thing we've got to do now is add the hook bait, and as I've already mentioned during this session, using the link bottom bait quads and a yellow link pop-up quad. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some of our floss. You don't need loads. I'm then going to take one of our splicing needles, and I'm going to pierce the top of the yellow quad first, then into the bottom bait to make a small little snowman, double it over in itself, and then carefully slide on our little hook bait. Pull the floss out the top and then slide it down so that barrel fits nice and snug inside the bottom bait. Trim off the remaining floss and then use a lighter to just blob and secure the hook bait in place. And there you go. That's a rig that has done the business with a little yellow topper. Give it a go and I'm sure it will put more fish on the bank for you. Okay, so all 3 rods are back out on the dance floor after that lovely common. Just going to talk to you a little bit about what we've done. So I think the 2 biggest edges have been able to get that bite so quickly. Number 1 was a Hunter 750 bait boat. Coming around here, nice and stealthily getting your rigs out there. 1 drop, got the donk, that's enough for me. The boat's that quiet, the fish didn't even know we'd done it. Secondly, the 18-pound fluorocast. So what I've done here, you can see that my bobbins are nice and slack. Once my leads dropped, tightened up to it, sunk my line, and then paid out loads and loads of slack. So now what you'll see is my line is actually bowing off my tips, going direct directly down to the bottom of the lake, and then hopefully across the lake, over the top of the little weed beds. They're not massive, I'm not too concerned about them, but I'd rather that line be pinned down and out of the way, and that's where the fluorocast really does come into its own. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly talk you through the setup that I'm using here. So at the business end, I've got a 1 metre length of the Spectra fluorocarbon leaders. These are the new ones, and this is a silk black version. They go down to a uni leg clip, and that is set to this 3.5 ounce lead to drop off every single time to hopefully make the fish come up in the water and not give me any problems in the weeds. Main line of choice is the 18-pound fluorocast, a firm favourite of mine. Strong, reliable, sinks like a brick, and virtually invisible in the water, which is why I've chosen it for this session. Okay, so fish number 4, same process again. Small little pineapple pop-up, handful of mainline link straight out the bag, just crushing a couple of them up. Seems to be tripping them up. For the last 2 mornings, been fizzing, slicking, liners, and I think what's happened is because the fish sort of matched the hatch style over the top, you know, post-spawning, I've delayed my bites because they can clear up all of that bait and not even touch the wafter. Whereas now I'm fishing little bright ones, it does give them sort of a little homing target to sort of home in on. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. Well, have a look at that. It's a trio of commons from this swim now, all immaculate, all jet black. Yeah, I'm buzzing, absolutely buzzing. Okay, we're into another fish. This time it's come on sort of a bottom bait wafter rig, but the interesting thing was, this was the only rod out there on a match to hatch that hadn't done a bite. The minute I've taken the match to hatch off, put a link bottom bait, tipped with a little tiny bit of pineapple on there, a little bit of yellow, it's done me a bite. So yellow is the colour in here at the minute. I'm just pleased we've managed to find this, and we've still got 3 nights ahead of us. So yeah, hopefully we can get this in. This will be fish number 5, and hopefully then one of them big ones won't be too far away. Oh, it's one of the big ones. Wow, check that out. That is why we came to the aquarium. One of the big girls. I'm guessing it's the normal 50-pounder. However, they recently spawned last week. She's down in weight at 45 pounds, but wow, what a carp. Got up this morning, 1 fish deep, thought it was all over. Persevered, found them in a quiet little corner where there was no lines, and yeah, we've had 4 fish today, topped by this one. Get in there. Well, there was a reason that we wanted to come to the aquarium, because these fish wouldn't look out of place in any English lake. And yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing. Show you one last time and then we'll let her go. Check that out. What an incredible carp. Thank you very much. Get in there. Okay, well, I had to make a decision. It was either stay in this swim for the night or move back round to the main swim, and I've seen that much activity over there. They've definitely had a free feed today, and I'm hoping they've mopped the majority of that bait up. We've always got the option to come back in here tomorrow if we want to do it. I want to make the most of that spot because they've invested a lot of time and a lot of bait on it. And I think if they get their heads down on it, we could be in for a lot more action. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly get this wrapped up now, get around there, get the rods on the spot before it gets dark, get my head down, because today I think we deserve some rest. First nighttime bite, but more importantly, first bite from the main spot. Secondly, how long is this carp? I think it's the longest carp I've ever caught. Its tail's at one end of the mat and its head's at the other, but mid-30, fish number 6, I'm buzzing. Well, you join me at the end of an epic battle with a really angry ghosty. I didn't even know there were any in, but this thing is like lightning. I had the bite from down the edge, exactly the same sort of time as the other one the other morning. And yeah, this will be number 7 if we get him in. Yeah, the biggest game changers for me was definitely yellow hook baits, 1000% the yellow hook baits. Slack lines, these fish on here are on another level. Like, they really do not like lines. Anywhere where the lines aren't, they go really weird. So the fluorocast really has come into its own. Well, yes. He's not a big one, but he's a nice one, and there's another one onto the tally. Well, good morning. Not exactly what you come to France for, but bite number 7. And I'm sure you've seen the take on camera. Savage, I'm gonna have to sort that pod out. But yeah, there's only 2 ghosties in here, him and his bigger brother. So to get one of them is a nice result. Right, so you've just seen me slip that lovely ghostie back. What I'm going to do now is it's time to knock up another mix now. What I will say is, at the start of the week, I went in with a lot of boilie crumb, half baits and whole baits. The fishing couldn't be any simpler. It's based around boilies. I'm using mainline based ling, but I think the crumb definitely preoccupied him. All those sort of small food items on the bottom, that's what was causing the fizzing. It was taking him ages to get through. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the chopper, and I'm literally going to feed whole and halves. So hopefully it doesn't take them as long to get through that bait. I think they've cleared that spot out now. There's not been a lot of fizzing this morning. We have finally had a bite off it now as well. And I'm not going to go mad. I'm literally going to go for 1.5 kilo, maybe 2 kilos of chops and whole, just spread over the area. And hopefully that's enough to entice them back into the swim. So, plan of attack for today. Bit of a double-edged sword really. I was contemplating moving over there for the day again. However, there's a massive weather front coming in this afternoon. It's the first one we've had. This spot's now done a bite, and I've actually just gone out in the boat and spread a couple of kilos of chops and whole baits about. I'm getting these 2 rods sorted now early because that's coming in this afternoon. My plan is to hopefully nick a couple of bites from here today and tonight off this main spot, and then hopefully that pushes the fish over to the far side again. And then tomorrow, when the weather looks a lot better, is to again put some bait in here and then go over to that peg again, hopefully capitalise on it, nick a couple of bites, and again repeat the same process, come back in here for the last night. So that's my plan of attack. Get these 2 rigs in position now, get the rig tied, and just before that storm comes in, get that one back down the edge. So get these rods in. So now I'm going to talk you through exactly how to tie the rotator rig. First of all, I'm going to take the Spectre in 20 pound, and this is going to be used for our boom section. Then I'm going to take a size 11 rotator swivel with the ring on and go through the ring with the tag end. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double the material back on itself, make a big loop, and then I'm going to twist the loop again so that I can thread the rotator swivel back through the loop to form a figure of 8. Now when I do this, I like the loop to be relatively small. This is all down to the person and all down to confidence really. It doesn't matter how large or how small you have that loop. It's all down to the individual. But for me, I like a small little loop, and then make sure I bed it down with some saliva, make sure it's nice and tight, and then trim off the tag end. So next up, I'm going to measure the length of my rig, and again this will depend on the situation, the fishing situation that you're faced with, but for me I want this around 8 inches in length, so I'm going to cut it around about 9.5 inches, and then by the time I've formed another figure of 8 loop, it'll trim it down to roughly around 8 inches in length. And what I'm going to do before I do form the second figure of 8, I'm going to take one of our rock bottom tungsten anti-tangle sleeves. This is one of the long ones, and I'm going to thread that down the hook link first, and then it's just a simple case of repeating the process that we did at the first step, and fold the material back on itself, create a loop, twist, and then I find at this point if you use one of our little splicing needles, they come in really handy just to pull the first loop through the second loop. Pull it down with a multi-tool, trim off the tag end, and I'm just going to cover up that with the anti-tangle sleeve to make it all look nice and neat, and that is essentially the boom section complete. So next up, you need to take your chosen pattern of hook. For me, it's an Apex size 4 medium curve. Got loads of confidence in these hooks, and personally I think they're the best hook for this particular rig presentation. As you can see straight out the packet, super sharp, and what I'm going to do is take a small section of shrink tube, and I'm going to thread that over the eye of the hook onto the shank of the hook. It's just going to be a simple case of hooking the size 11 rotator swivel through the eye of the hook, and then I'm going to cover both the ring and the barrel of the swivel with the shrink tube before steaming it down. Now for me personally, through experience of using this rig, 2 ways to use it. If you're using a big ring, I always like to slide a small piece of shrink tube over the barrel and steam it down. If you're going to use a rotator swivel without the ring and cut it off and just use it as a normal swivel, then you can get away with a kicker. It just reduces the amount of movement that swivel gives you. Sometimes it sounds funny, but you can have too much movement, and that's where you get your dodgy hook holds. So I've just steamed it down carefully with a lighter to make it all nice and neat. Next up, I'm going to take a mini hook ring swivel. That's going to allow us to attach our hook bait to, and I'm going to thread the point of the hook through the big ring on the swivel, and then finish that off with a mini hook ring stop. This is one of the small ones, and I'm just going to put the point of the hook through and pull that round. And usually on a pop-up like this, I like it round about opposite the barb, and that'll sit nicely in place. These are really good, really sort of rigid and strong, stay in place on the cast. And last but not least, I'm going to take some rock bottom tungsten putty. We're going to use 2 bits of putty. The first one is going to go around the first figure of 8 knot that we did with the rotator swivel, and that's going to act as a counterbalance to the pop-up. Again, start by adding little and often till you get the correct counterbalance for the particular hook bait you're using. And then last but not least, I'm going to take a small little mouse drop in of rock bottom tungsten putty, and I'm going to put a tiny little piece just off center up towards the anti-tangle sleeve, which is going to help pin the hook link down. And also by having it in that position, it's just going to make sure the boom kicks away every single time away from your lead arrangement. So to finish the rig off, we obviously need to attach a hook bait. So I'm going to take some of a floss. You don't need loads of it, just enough that you can slide your hook bait onto, and then you're going to take your hook bait of choice. In this case, we've been using little pineapple pop-ups. Thread the floss through the min hook ring swivel, double it over, and then with the splicing needle, which has a latch on it, I'm just going to hook and close the latch, pull the hook bait onto the floss and slide it down onto the swivel. And when I do this, I pull it down so it basically covers just the barrel of the swivel, no more. You don't want to reduce any movement, but just enough to cover the barrel before trimming off, and then carefully using a lighter to blob the end. And there you have it, the rig that's been so successful for me this week. A really good presentation, very versatile, and gives you good hook to land fish ratio. I don't know how this has happened, but I put the margin rod back down the side since having that ghosty, and it's only been down there an hour. Just had a really savage line on the middle rod, went to check it, and then the left-hand rod started like pulling up tight, and I thought, oh, there's a pike or something gone through it. Really slow by, not like the others tearing it off the pod, just nice and controlled round, and this thing feels really heavy, like it's done nothing but plod. It's a really big fish, this one. Definitely the biggest one of the trip. No. Yes, get in there, come on. Well, finally, it has happened. A lot of perseverance, a lot of help from Max the bailiff. We've given our all this session. This was going to be a trip that we weren't expecting to catch 80s and 90s from. The aquarium's got them sort of 67 pound, they're getting bigger. But this wasn't about catching an absolute monster. This was about catching one of these unbelievable carp that could literally be in a lake anywhere in the world. They are some of the best looking carp in the world. Well, check that out, all 53 pounds of it. I'm absolutely buzzing. What a carp, what a place, unbelievable. This is off the main spot again. We've just put that lovely 53 pounder back. We've got one rod back on the spot, just left it and it's gone. Honestly, the biggest game changer for me was finding the yellow bait yesterday. Every bite since has been on a yellow. It's been the biggest game changer for me this week. Like I said, we started on match to hatch. You'd think post-spawn, lots of boilies, particle for some reason. Again, it's like even in England, lakes with blue dye in, get on the yellow for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's gone from one fish yesterday morning to now almost into double figures, a 50 pounder, an original, and this last 24 hours has just been sensational. I knew this was going to be a marathon and not a sprint. Like, I knew it would take me 3 or 4 days to kind of work out what the fish were doing, where they wanted to be, get into a routine, find the right colour, find exactly how much bait to put out there. We're now into Thursday. We've still got 2 nights to go. God knows how this session could end up, but it's turning into a session of a lifetime. Here's yours. Hey. Thank you very much, sir. You've done well there. Well, check that out. Even the little ones are worth catching. What we're going to do now is get all 3 rods refreshed back out on the spot and batten down the hatches because there's a big storm coming. Well, good morning. It is the last full day here at the aquarium, and last night nothing extra happened. After having the big one down the side, another small one from the main spot, the weather looking perfect and prime, I thought we were going to get some fish last night. Certainly yesterday evening, maybe nick another one on that margin spot this morning, which didn't materialise. And I got up at first light this morning, there were fish after fish after fish, showing themselves, fizzing all in front of peg 12, which is where we came for that day session a few days ago. Unfortunately, much to the cameraman's dislike, I've had to wrap everything up early doors, get round here and get the rods back on the spots that did me the bites the other day, because the fish are definitely here in numbers and there's definitely the chance for a few bites. If it all goes well today, might end up wrapping up, coming in here for the last night, but we'll play it by ear and we'll see what happens. Another savage bite. I don't think it's a particularly big fish. It screamed off too quick and it's Must have took 80 yard of line and gone down to the other end of the lake, like, so I don't think it's a massive fish, but it's kited a long way down the lake over my other 2 rods. I'm just praying that, I'm not so bothered about the weed because it's on the surface, but I can't get the rod out far enough down this side, so I'm gonna concentrate and try and get this fella in, because this will be number 10 and that will be target achieved. Number 10, going in the net. Way! And that's double figures. So you've just seen me land that lovely comment. We managed to get a quick clip of it and slip it back. I was desperate to get my rod back out. We're losing light quickly and we're going into the last night, so I wanted one last bite of the cherry to see whether we could get one more fish. Well, good morning. It is always nice to finish off a trip with a fish, isn't it? We've been waiting for this weather to come in all week, and finally, when we're just about to pack away, everything's wet through and it comes in. What an incredible week. 11 fish in total. I feel like the average size of fish has been a bit smaller than what I expected, but I put that down. They only spawned last week. It normally takes them a little while to recover. Yeah, we had that lovely 53 pounder, a mega 45 pound, an original that the bailiffs are known as never seen. Could be 30, 40 years old, little weathered fins. That was mega, that one. That was my favourite. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. I've absolutely loved making it. Hope you can take something away from you. And if you're looking for a trip to France, please do go and have a look at the aquarium. You won't be disappointed. The scenery is incredible. The fish are unbelievable and the food is just second to none. Cheers.